Hey guys, welcome to the Game Dev Discussion Podcast. This is the official podcast of the Dynasty Empire. Just so everyone knows, the Cyberpunk Challenge, which is Dynasty in partnership with Experience Points, that's gone live, so it's been great to see the ArtStation blogs and all filled with the thumbnails, and everyone's starting to work on it and everyone's really passionate about it. I know the whole community is blown up about it and the judges are super excited to see what you guys come up with. But that's the formalities out of the way. Episode 41, we have a really good friend, JonJo Hemmens, on. How are we doing, bro?
Hey man, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm very good, man. I'm so glad to have you on because you've been sort of, I don't want to put the pressure on, but like killing it, I suppose is the only way I can say it. Like literally everything that comes out from you, man, is just like sick. There's no lapse in quality.
Well, now the pressure's really on, yeah.
Well, you don't get shares from everyone for no reason. I know I've seen on social medias, ArtStation has shared your stuff. Like I think Subs has shared one of your things as well. Like the stuff you've been doing has been insane.
Just very lucky the right people saw it, yeah.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, JonJo is one of the, I suppose, the OGs from the meet. He sort of helped found the meetup from a sense because, you know, when we all met before the official Dynasty meetup, it was me, you, Jay, Kieran, Rick, Thomas, Patrick, Jesus. Like, we were all there, then it's crazy because that was the meetup with us guys, and then it was like, the next one was like 150 people. It was such a great meetup.
Such a great meetup.
It speaks volumes how bad the UK transport system is, that the next one's potentially going to be in Sweden, and that's actually easier for you to get to than to the middle of the country because our trains are so shit. Yeah,
it's like 20 minutes for me to get to Gatwick. It's nothing. But it's 3.5 hours to get up to Nottingham.
Oh god, that's just not good. Anyway, that's the UK. There's one thing I find interesting about you, and I'm curious to see if you agree, disagree, or what you think about this. Props. So props tend to be the starting point for most artists. When I'm learning to be an environment artist, I start with making props. And as I learn to make environments, then you scale up, you get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now you did that. You made a lot of very, very good environments. Some of my favorites. However, you've recently been doing just some really styled back, simple, but like high quality props. For you as like an artist who's already learned these skills stuff, like where's the value in dialing back down to that?
Well, I've spent, like you said, I've spent a lot of time doing these large environments, and environments they aren't the same as just doing props. You worry about completely different things. You worry about the big picture, like getting the whole scene done. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of the scenes that I'd worked on, you don't really give yourself a lot of time to work on these props. You get into the production mindset of, I need to get a prop done a day or something like that. So quickly do these headphones, quickly do a speaker, quickly do this. And although I was getting kind of passable results with it, like if you looked at my Will's Room project, for example, if you look at each individual prop, none of them really stand out as being like really good. There's just some, like there are some that are pretty good, but most of them are kind of, they just fit in with the rest of the scene. And that's not a terrible thing, but I wanted to be able to make much nicer props. I want to slowly get better at detailing and storytelling in my props. I've been really inspired by the works of Mario Dallabona.
He's been killing it.
Hannah's work's been really inspirational. Just seeing other people take the time to focus on an individual piece and give it just so much detail and storytelling is very inspiring.
How much do you think about that? Like, from the ground up, so I mean it's a nice way, like the refrigerator. It's a box. Like, it's a box.
It is a box,
yeah, there's so much to it, and you managed to. Also, I think it was Javier, the lead artist at Deco, was like, he saw the generators at the back and said, "You scan that?" And you're like, "No, I modeled it." It's like, "Holy shit, you sure you didn't scan that?" And it's like, I think that's probably the highest compliment an artist can get. Actually, if someone's like, "Oh, you scanned it," it's like, "Nope, I made it." But what changes? Because you have to obviously look at it a different way. You're looking at details you wouldn't normally look at. So what kind of details is it you look at that you didn't in that production mindset?
I stopped looking so much at... Well, I didn't stop. I just changed my perspective of looking at like the large primary forms and the secondary forms to getting into real nitty gritty of those little details that you don't really pick up unless you sit down and stare. For the most part, if I was modeling something before, I'd probably go off like one or two reference images, but now I grab as many as I can. I probably have at least like 15 to 30 on each asset. Details, like close-ups of, like, you're talking about the compressor at the back. Like, all the dirt and the dust on that, I just had reference images of dirty and dusty compressors, and I was like, I'll just make it look like that. I'm going to work out why it's dripping that much, where it's going to have come from, where it's going to be building up, that kind of stuff. Just going into all those little details and really paying attention. So, like, the amount of screws on the back of the fridge, like, why they're very slightly offset, because it's probably been hand drilled, that kind of stuff. Just taking a little bit of extra time to really study the reference, and not just focus on the big picture, just go right down into each little segment.
Out of curiosity, do you ever, when you're gathering your reference, do you ever have any 3D or artwork on your reference boards, or is it always like, okay, I'm replicating real life, so I'm going to use real life as my reference, not art? Like, how do you approach that?
So I will try do real life as much as I can.
Yeah?
Like 90% of the time. Just because I don't actually have a problem with copying or using other people's artwork as reference, but generally the best reference you can find is real. It's kind of like copying something that's already been done once. You're just gonna perverse the art form even further, because you won't want to fully replicate what someone else has done, and you'll probably change it up slightly subconsciously. But if you're studying real life reference, you'll be able to, even if you do change it a little bit, it should be closer to what the reality was.
Yeah.
I mean, in my reference boards, for the most part, I'll have grabbed like loads of images of Mario's props just because they're so close to what I want to make.
Yeah, it's like the quality level almost you're using that for.
Oh yeah, his quality bar is insane. Like, he's been posting a lot of his work recently on ArtStation. Just getting to see it again, it's just like, I remember why I got into doing these props. I want to keep doing them.
What about selecting props? So far you've done the TV, the old school TV, and the refrigerator. What made you choose them as props? And if you're doing, like, what's the thought process when you're trying to select the prop? You there, dude? JonJo? Yeah, I can hear you.
Hear me?
Yeah, now you're back.
All right, okay.
Odd. So yeah, I don't know.
That.
I've got a potato PC, as past podcasts has proven. So yeah, you chose the TV, you chose the refrigerator. What made you choose them, and like, what's your line of thinking to get to choosing them as props?
Just part of scenes that I need. So the refrigerator and I'm working on a coffee machine at the moment. They're just part of a break room, like an 80s break room that I'm working on. That's going to be part of like a larger scene.
I see. Okay. I thought you were doing them in isolation, man. I thought they were just like isolated little studies. Okay, so they're going to go towards a bigger project then. Yeah,
I was after I did like the snow project, which, as I think I told you before, was quite difficult for me. That almost burnt me out. Mm-hmm. I decided that my approach for upcoming projects would be a lot more granular. I would do each bit by each bit and get every part that I start up to the quality of a finished piece, so that I can just be done with it. And if for some reason, at work I have to spend many more hours doing stuff, or maybe the challenge comes up, like the experience points and dynasty challenge comes up, and I really, really want to take part in that, then at least I'll have those finished pieces. And I don't need to go back to a scene of like half finished stuff, and it will just be very demoralizing. Like, well, I've got those things finished, so even if I don't finish the scene, have that.
Question, and so I'm thinking back to something Marcel Schleicher said, the Crytek lead artist. We're talking about when they're putting scenes together. Part of the job of, so obviously we're leading players through scenes, and you're drawing the eye and all this kind of stuff. part of that is, and one of the things he struggles with his Eternal artist was that obviously not everything's a hero prop.
Yeah, true.
But when you have like lots of hero props next to each other, nothing stands out.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a concern when you're putting your scene together? If you have these props that you're making individually isolated be like really, really, really nice, do you run the risk of everything looks good, or everything's hyper detailed, so you're not actually drawing the eye, or are these going to be isolated parts of the room, these props, so like they're the hero props in their particular area?
I think there are other ways to draw the eye than just having like low and high detail props.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I don't have as much experience as the guy you're talking about, but you know, I don't know yet. We'll have to see. I've only done one prop so far. It's definitely a concern, but at the moment I'm just enjoying putting all this detail in, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. And at the end of the day, that's what's most important to me with these projects. Just coming home and being able to enjoy some 3D art.
So let's talk about actually the sort of process of 3D art. I have had a lot of people, so since people have found out you're coming on, I've had a few questions, because obviously with these props comes a high fidelity in textures. I want to talk about and this is something actually I want to talk to more people about, is that process of creating something, because everyone's like, oh yeah, you know, you do high poly, low poly, bake, painter, render. It's like, okay, yeah, but the whys of it within them particular areas. So let's talk about texturing. You've got your high poly bakes, you've got really nice bakes, you're in Substance Painter, you've got your grey model with the bakes on there. What's the first step?
First thing I do is I export the textures. Is what I do first.
What? So you pull it. Before you do anything, you'll export them straight away, set them up in Marmoset so that you're just updating.
Yeah, spot on. Like it's either that or Unreal Engine, just so I can constantly export and just see how they look in their final like presentation. I don't really think there's any point in just what it looks like in Substance and painting away if it's going to look completely different. Like you always need to be checking your roughness and your albedo just constantly. So out of curiosity, why don't you do that in Substance Painter's viewport? Just because Substance Painter viewport has a different way of rendering, and it always looks different on Unreal and Marmoset. So just check it in the final place you're going to be getting. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you've done that preset. You've set up your Marmoset file. Yeah. So Marmoset file's done. Yeah. Cool. Then I go straight into Photoshop. Go on. And I make alphas, labels, stickers, like anything I see in my ref. So for the fridge, I made like the little logo for the front. I spent a lot of time doing the stickers on the back, the sticker for the compressor. I did the fridge badges and everything like that, just so that I could have them as stamps that I can just throw in when I'm in Painter. Actually, can we skip forward? Actually, did someone want to talk about actually with stickers? So stickers. Okay. Well, stickers always look. I see art, 3D art, and people who do stickers or like any sort of top layer detail. And it always looks like a top layer detail. It always looks like I have got an alpha of a colour and I've just slapped it on. Talk me through specifically how you apply them stickers and the treatment you do to those stickers once they're in Substance Painter, because I think that's something people get wrong quite a lot, and it's something that you've nailed so far across your two props. Yeah, it's basically just isolating the material out. You really don't want anything from below the sticker, for the most part, to bleed through onto the sticker. So something I see happen quite a lot is people will put stickers on something like wood, and then you see all the wood grain underneath. And it's like, well, maybe you'll see a little bit, but not all the way. Like, you need to have it as its own material. It needs to have very, very subtle height just to kind of make it pop. Not too much, because stickers are very, very flat, but you still want it just to pop out a little bit. And I think a part of making the sticker feel real is like maybe subtle height bubbling in the material. So parts where it hasn't kind of flattened down fully. Little bits of tears and rips where you can see where the paper and glue have kind of stuck and left their mark, or someone's tried to like rip it off. And just again, it's all about getting like the right roughness for the sticker.
So with
dyeing up
hyperballs,
properly.
you'll just say, for example, you have a just for argument's sake, a flat surface of a sticker, and it's got black height because it's completely flat, and you have like a 0.2 grey. Well, you'll literally get your brush and go in and just add little pockets of slightly lighter greys just to up the height. You'll just dot them in, or do you do anything procedurally?
There's a bunch of brushes in Painter that just do like little bubble marks, and then you could just filter it out a little bit. So filter it on your mask and blur it slightly, just so it looks like it's not completely sharp. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's lots of things you can do, but it's just trying to recreate that material as closely as you can see it and remember it from real life.
I think it's also a lot in the albedo as well. I always push people back to photo scans. I'm like, go look at a photo scan of something and look at what you've done with your stickers, because one of the things they always do is have really high saturation. I'm like, when you photo scan something with no lighting information, they're normally pretty desaturated, or like they're not, super bright in colours.
Yeah.
And I always feel like stickers are the same. There shouldn't be a jet black in your sticker. It just does. Real life doesn't come out like that. When you inkjet, it doesn't come out like that. That's what I always push to, is like, go look at a photo scan of tree, of like bark. There's a lot of greys and stuff in there. It's not all just hypersaturated browns. Like, it's all desaturated. So that's why I always push for stickers as well. And like anything like that, labels, it's like they're not all. Nothing is max. You don't have full white roughness nearly ever. You don't have full black roughness nearly ever. You don't have max height, minimum height. You have like lots of greys in between.
A lot of stuff in the middle. Yeah.
I think that's something. So yeah, sorry, I just wanted to skip that because that's something I was curious about. But yeah, back to the beginning. You so you've got all your alphas, you've got your stickers, you've mapped out all the stuff you're gonna need for your scene, for your prop. Sorry, you're in Substance Painter. What next? And I think you've cut out again. JonJo? Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a technical issue again. JonJo? Hello?
Hello?
Okay, you're back.
Okay, I'm back. This is a fun one.
Yeah,
you really need to get a new computer, dude.
Yeah, this is an 8-year-old PC. It's not good.
8 years? That's lasted.
Well,
just about.
If you call this lasting. So yeah, sorry. You have got all your stickers and everything.
Yeah.
What next? What's next in the texturing process?
I start blocking out materials. Just like you would when you're blocking out like shapes in 3D. I'll just go through the Substance default library and just start pulling materials in. I'll start putting them into folders, masking out my sections with like a color ID mask or something, and just see how close I can get to my finished product with basically what is out of the box from Substance. I won't have everything, like the final asset won't just be using those. A lot of stuff will have changed. I'll have blended some photo source stuff in. But for the most part, you really have to start with blocking out your materials and just getting it as close as you can to the reference with what Substance has. It's just the fastest way, really. You can spend a lot of time trying to make like a custom material in Substance Designer, but I've honestly found that I haven't needed to do that yet. It's not super important. If you can, that's great. But just blocking out with what's in Substance Painter is good enough, I think. Then it's just a process of getting it closer to the reference. So tweak the roughness and albedo, get as close to the material as I can. Having like a lot of reference shots from multiple angles helps you understand the roughness as well. So it's another thing that you can put in your reference, just different angles, different lighting setups if you can find them. So with the fridge, I found like a lot of shots from like indoors and outdoors, so I could study how the patina would look on the exterior. Mm-hmm. Then once I'm pretty much happy with the base materials, go into detailing, so adding wear, scratches, grunge, dirt, whatever you see in your reference.
But what about what sort of stuff though, like when you're doing the grunge and the wear?
Yeah.
Is there like anything you consciously think about? Like you're like, right, don't do this. So for example, when I do like edge wear, what I'll do is I'll apply like a smart mask, but I'll always make a conscious effort to go in and then add the human element to it. So like, okay, add my edge wear, what the procedural tech is telling me, but then hand paint bits out or in, or like, okay, this will be scratched because someone's tried to put a key in it and it's slipped or whatever. Like, is there any, even when you're doing this stage where you're going through your like layers, like you said, edge wear and dirt and grunge and all that sort of stuff, is there any cues you think about when you're texturing where you're like, okay, I'll make sure I do this, or I'll make sure I do that, or don't do this, or don't do that? Is there any of that?
I'm very consciously aware of height. It's something that can really screw you over.
How so?
Well, height in Substance Painter just looks like height. It looks awful. You have to be really careful with how you apply it, and a lot of people might accidentally leave like height in their layers, and that height can completely ruin height from other layers. It can add a shitload of noise that you didn't need. It can just make your masks, like, so your edge wear and your scratches and stuff look so obviously procedural, that it just ruins any element of like it being a real asset or a real life item.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really sparingly use height. And if you do use it on those like heavy scratches, maybe tear a bit of like the asset off. But just be very careful with it. Be very careful with it.
Okay. So yeah, edgeware, grunge, carry on. I want to keep interrupting because there's bits where I'm like, okay, I want to know more about this particular little bit.
A lot of hand painting. I think it's probably not done enough by people when it comes to their props, but adding things like ripping and the bubbling on the stickers like we mentioned earlier, or grunge build-up under the screws, just little drips. Using a lot of the brushes in Substance Painter, I barely see them used, and they're really, really powerful for just adding a lot of nice detail, or even for clearing up your smart masks and stuff. But yeah, it's that process repetitively and taking that attention to detail to each material that really sells it in the end.
I like, you know what brush I like, and I always get like laughed at for liking it, is the particles one for oil leaks.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, I mean, it takes a load of correction like for the bottom end of it, but like,
is that like dirty leaky or something?
It's like, if I'll use it for basically like anywhere where there's a bolt, I'll go in and I'll add a top layer of grime, like algae, and then I would set the mask to black so you can't see it, and then under everything where it'll be exposed to rain, underneath I'll just add ever so slight amount of dripping underneath everything where the water's landed on the bolt, and then it's dripped around the bolt and underneath it, and you'll get that algae and grime build up. It's just nice because it's such an organic way of doing it rather than trying to paint it. But just go back to like not enough hand painting and textures. Do you think that's something to do with that we have at the moment in the games industry, the word procedural has rammed down your throat so much that, like, I know with students are like, oh well, I don't want to hand paint because I want to make sure stuff's editable later, and I'm like, yeah, but you have to still add your artistic touch to it. Like, procedural tech will get you so far. Do you think that's an issue, or like, yeah, why don't people hand paint enough? Like, especially with Painter, because Painter, well, it's in the name, Painter, but like they've got all this tech in there, like for 3D viewport, for like live painting, all these brush libraries. Yet, like you said, you don't see enough people using it. Why?
I think, well, at least for me, I came from a background of like using Blender and using Photoshop to texture everything, like in college, and.
Right, we've had another cut out. I'm sorry, it normally lasts like 2-3 seconds, and then he'll come back, so give it a second. I don't know why this happens, because apparently my performance isn't tanking.
Well,
okay,
like,
you back?
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay.
I don't know what I've got my task manager open next to me, and it's not even tanking in performance, so I'm not sure what's going on.
But you PC shit, dude.
Yes, essentially that. It is that. So, yeah, you had a college background in Photoshop and Blender?
Yeah, just doing texturing and asset creation like that for so long, and then coming across Painter, it's just a whole other world of texturing. Like, you can get such good results so quickly with Substance Painter. You just throw on a smart material, and your model is it feels like if you were to do that in Painter, in Photoshop, you'd say it's done. Like, wow, that quick for those results. That's incredible. And I guess maybe there's a bit of complacency that comes in with students, at least. There definitely was with me when I first started texturing, and I can kind of see that I did slowly get better with it, but I got to a point that all of the props just had that same level of detail. I never pushed it further on any of them. Where you just throw on this material, that material, put those in those folders, and then, yeah, it's pretty much there, you know, looks good enough. Yeah, maybe you put on like some of the dust or dirt smart materials that look awful, and then you just call it a day. But it's just so easy to get a quick, passable result that, yeah, maybe people just get complacent with it and they don't worry about those hand-painted deals and don't think they need to take it further.
I don't think people know the power of Substance yet.
It's so powerful.
So this is one of the things, like, for those that don't know, obviously started with ArtStation Learning, and I want to get courses where we're talking about stuff like anchor points, like, you know, these smart, like, layer filters, so like the filter which Roden made, which is a really good filter. Stuff like where you can have special, like, materials which will affect, like, your normal, your height and everything in a very particular way, but has, like, it's linked to the whole material in a procedural way. I'm like, there's all these really advanced techniques no one knows about, or they don't use, or they choose not to use. And
Dude,
I think
it sounds like I could learn a lot from you right now.
Well, it's like, this is what I mean, though, like, it's one of the things which I feel like has been not had enough love, and I don't know whether that's because, so you think as a substance designer, how much effort goes into telling you why Substance is good and showing you all the cool shit it's doing, because you can't get immediate results. It's impossible to get immediate results with Substance designer. Whereas, like you said, with Painter, I can jump in, throw a couple of smart materials on, and I could call that done and pass.
Yeah.
Like I said, it might be complacency. So I don't know whether that's why there's not so much learning resource out there for it. But from, like, so for me, being part of Decagon and having, like, Michael and Taylor and Clinton show me some really, really cool techniques, and I'm like, I had no idea that was in there. For example, I got super lazy at one point where I didn't even do high polys. I was just going to go in, do a low poly bake in Substance Painter, and then use anchor points to do all my normals in Painter, because I was like, it's a simple prop, it doesn't need to be amazing because it's off in the background. I don't need to waste time doing a high poly and bake. I'll just paint my normals in Painter and use anchor points to do it all for me. Like, I didn't know about that till the guy showed me, and I'm like, this is such an important piece of, like, pipeline. Why am I not known this from day one? And I do think it's because there's a lot of attention to designer.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't know about most of those things. I just use the tool. I use a very limited tool set when it comes to Painter, and I think that it's amazing that you can get the results that you can just using, like, the surface level, like the brush, the eraser, the smart masks. Like, just with those small amount of things, you can get something incredible. But yeah, the fact that it has all these tools that we aren't using, it definitely feels like there's an opportunity for people to learn more. Yeah,
I think I might add that to the list of people I need to get on to talk about it, both on podcasts and on learning, because it's one of them things where I'm just thinking, like, I'm seeing you produce these props to this quality, and I still think there's a few things you know in there, like, which are not immediately apparent, or maybe it's the level of, you know, attention to detail, but I just don't see enough people using it, and I'm kind of like, this stuff's there, go do it. Like, you look at and I don't know, I don't want to blame procedural tech, because I don't know whether it comes from stuff like Mixer and Quixel Suite, where, like, you can get some seriously quick results which are nearly finished. They lack the human element, but they would pass in, you know, AAA.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's a contributing factor to it, but yeah, there's something for that type of stuff. You know, like, we see a really good ZBrush model, like a really good ZBrush high poly.
Yeah,
like,
beautiful grey. Yeah,
and you're like, that's got that human element that I can't get with procedural tech. That's the bit which I'm like, that's how I feel about Painter right now. I feel like there's a bunch of stuff, tools in there to help you push stuff to that extra little bit that people just don't use. And I think it's born out of ignorance.
Yeah, or people just not wanting to go the extra mile, not wanting to push themselves to the limit of what they can do with these tools.
This is actually an interesting segue. I don't know if you've been keeping track on Twitter. I had a conversation with Anthony O'Donnell and Chris Radsby on Twitter about, basically someone tweeted about, like, you shouldn't use megascans. Megascans, like, don't use them if you're trying to develop a portfolio.
Okay.
And So I come from the point of view of one, blanket statements don't belong in our industry. Full stop.
Okay. Understandable.
Which is a blanket statement in itself, which is quite funny. However, I come from the point of view of I'm all for megascans as long as you're transparent. Like, as long as there's transparency, I'm game. I can discount as an experienced artist. I can look at a piece of art, and if you say I didn't do any of the foliage, I'll be like, right, I won't take the quality of the foliage into account when judging your piece of art. Now, Anthony and Chris made some really good points there. They're like, oh, well, you know, in smaller studios, you kind of need to be versatile. You can't dodge things. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I agree with you. But there's nothing wrong with like using megascans to finish off a scene, which you're focusing on like materials, or something, a better example, like on trim sheets, so that you start the next scene where you could focus on foliage and use megascans to do all the materials for you. Like, there's room for megascans. Megascans and photoscans are here to stay. And I was kind of like, I saw it and I was like, okay, I don't agree with this. I want to say my piece. And we had a good we had a really good conversation on Twitter, and I think we ended up agreeing. It was just basically Twitter's a really shit platform for
it's awful.
nuanced debate. But from your point of view, you're in the trenches in production art and creative assembly. You're doing personal art. Where, like, just as an artist, where do you stand on megascans? Like, forget all of the judging portfolios and, you know, where the industry's going, and studios need to know certain skill sets. Just as an artist, what do you think of megascans? What's your opinion of megascans?
I think they're great. I think megascans are a really powerful tool, and the fact that everyone has access to them now, I can't wait to see how people use these tools. Like, just seeing what JonJo Hemmens was able to produce over like a couple of months. Like the Dust 2 scene, like, god damn.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible what he's been able to do with Megascan. It really, it's a perfect example of the power that artists are going to have soon. And I know you said, like, just my opinion, but I see a knee-jerk reaction to them from a lot of people. And I totally agree with your point that, you know, if people are going to use them, they need to be clear about what is and what isn't theirs. But I think that people are going to start using them, and it should be accepted. People should just understand that the industry will evolve and it will change. And for a lot of realistic games, megascans will become more and more important. We're already seeing studios like Embark adopt a basically fully scanned. They're generating their worlds out of entirely scanned data now. Yeah. Which obviously shows that there is going to be room for people to get good at their own scanning and using scanned assets. These people might do more procedural workflows and in placement of stuff, but yeah, I think they're great.
I think it's the same reaction. It's the same. It feels like the same reaction of when stuff like Painter's Designer came around, like the ZBrush and Photoshop artists who were like, "Oh, well, you're not really making their materials. Like, you're using a bunch of images to make your materials." And now, like, designers just recognise and accept it as, that's how you make materials. Like, that's the standard way.
Well, it feels like,
it feels like the same cycle again.
Yeah, it's people don't really like change. I mean, if someone said to me tomorrow that, hey, you won't be doing those props anymore. Like, we've got a new tool that basically makes all of your prop work and your skills obsolete. I'm probably not going to be too happy about that. I'm going to say, maybe I'll just keep doing my props.
Yeah.
And because it's what I enjoy doing and it's what I love. And I definitely think that people can spend a lot of time using the same tools over and over again and then become worried when those tools become threatened and their way of life and their way of working is under threat. But I actually don't think megascans is much of a threat to anyone, especially people who do stylized art and especially teams who work in indie. It's a tool that is going to be useful for people who do realistic games and they want to source things like foliage. There are so many materials that you can't scan, and I don't see them being made by Quixel. So
yeah, I think it's also. I had this conversation with Matthew Halloran way back when I was talking about, like, portfolios aren't really game art. Like,
no, they're not really.
We throw ridiculous poly counts in there. We have way too many lights. We have really high textures. Too many draw calls. Like, let's face it. No, very few portfolio pieces are fair representations of the game industry. So I see like arguments against Victor Oldham where he did his piece where it's like, oh, but he's got like loads of deferred decals and they're like they're 4K textures and it's loads of props and like that's not game art. And I'm like, yeah, but neither is your portfolio. Like, sorry, you don't get to have them poly counts in AAA. You don't get to have them amount of draw calls, them texture sizes, all that VFX, that fog light. You ain't getting that in AAA. So it's kind of like I feel like people are trying to make excuses to hate on megascans. Like, you know, it's not game art because it's not applicable to like, you know, budgets. I'm like, yeah, but neither's portfolio art, and I can still show my skills off as a lighting artist in and that's what I'm really excited for. I'm excited to see more people, aspiring directors, aspiring designers, aspiring lighting artists with a load of content where they can get to flex them skills without worrying about the sort of stuff it's built off, which is what I'm excited for.
Yeah, it's just more tools for them to express themselves. It's great. To go back to your last point, where you're talking about like how people's portfolios aren't like necessarily game ready, like the scenes that they're doing. I think like if you just took a bit of like if you step back a moment and looked at like the portfolios that are getting people jobs, I don't know, like 6 or 7 years ago, if you looked at those scenes, I bet now you'd look at them and you'd be like, dude, you could run that on anything. Like, you could run that on a crappy old PC. Like, I think we're just people's like the capacity to create. Like, I mean, it might not be game ready. It'll be real time for sure. You still want it to maybe with optimization plausibly run in a game. Like, you don't want to just go overboard with it. But it's probably just that. Give it a couple of years and these scenes would run no problem in a game. Like, hardware evolves really quickly, and I'm sure a lot of those scenes that I've seen seniors and leads, they could run no problem these days. But back then I'm sure they didn't. I'm sure that was like, no, that'd never work in games, too big. You got 10 meshes there, we can only do 3.
I mean, I can see where the grey areas will come in. Actually, using the when I speak to Anthony about it, we're talking about the Aardvark with the Search for a Star stuff.
Yep.
And it's like,
it's a really cool initiative.
Yeah, it's like, well, what happens when, you know, people use megascans for that? It's not their art. And I'm like, yeah, but that comes down to so I have a bit of, not beef, but like, you know, a recruiter, I would not rely on a recruiter to look at a piece of art and being able to distinguish what's megascans and what's not.
Yeah,
because if they're told it's megascans, I wouldn't back their critical eye to look at it and be able to draw their opinion by discounting the megascans element. I don't think they'll be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, they specialize in a lot of different things, but I mean, when it gets past recruiters, it'll go straight to like a lead or a senior anyway. So
we're talking the competition scene, like
is it not judged by artists?
I'm not. I think it's judged by artists and recruiters. I think there's more recruiters than there are artists. I'm not 100% sure. At least there's a barrier of entry through the recruiters.
Yeah.
But my point is, I'm like, you can't draw the line at an untrained person's ability to critique a piece of work. Like, I'm sorry, like as an experienced artist, you could look at something and go, that's not megascans. I'm gonna, like, if someone showed me a foliage scene, which was all megascans, the blending, the materials, everything, I'd be like, right, I am purely judging you on how you've placed these assets, how you lit these assets, and how you compose your scene. That's like, that's it. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
And that obviously is an issue because I've seen it's already. I know. I think we spoke about it with Jay actually last week. It's like I'm seeing a few portfolios where I'm like, you have literally took an asset, slapped it at the scene, slapped some grass down, and you think that's done. And I'm like, you haven't composed it, you haven't told a story, you haven't lit it well. I'm like, there is a danger of that, but that same danger was there with Substance Painter, where people will just grabbing a barrel and slowing machinery oil paint SP1 on it.
Yep.
And cool, that done. That exact same issue is there. It's just repeating itself.
Well, I think that it'll just come down to students will have to learn the hard way. Like, if they're opting in for these kind of lazier strategies to get their portfolio pieces done, then they won't find themselves with a job. Like, people who just throw machinery down, maybe when Substance Painter just came out and a lead was dazzled at how quickly he could make that, he might have got a job, but the industry learns really quickly what is and what isn't good with these tools. And people, like you said, with the Aardvark Swift competition, if people did use scans and they won the prize, but it was basically just because there were scans everywhere, great, they won the competition, but it's not going to get them a job. Because anyone who has a foundation in art will be able to look at that and say, nope, that's scans. How did you win a competition for this?
Yeah,
who are you up against?
Well, I suppose actually the market would end up. So actually that's quite an interesting point, because I've always said the market will validate someone's success.
Yeah.
If you're suddenly allowing a bunch of people to win competitions by using scans and no actual artistic ability, suddenly the studios stop taking your competition seriously, because they're like, oh, okay, well, you just only let these people in. Then it's like, we have to be judging it well, otherwise we lose our thing.
Yeah, they lose credibility completely for their ability to judge this thing. Completely. I think they should probably be more diligent about... I mean, have they said that they're going to allow scans?
I don't think anyone clarifies it. I think, I
It's so new.
I mean, with the experience points and the Dynasty one, we've said you can use them, but we will take that into account. Obviously, we're all artists in there, so we're able to do that. But
well, no one's going to get away with putting scans in. You guys will be able to tell.
Well, I think it would be quite hard on the fact that be transparent about it. We don't want to have to dissect your work to be able to figure out what's what. You can use them, be transparent, and we'll take into our consideration when judging. I can quite happily, if someone said to me, I didn't make any of the materials, I'd be like, fine, I won't give you brownie points for a really nice material. It's a very binary thing to me. I just want to move on to a subject. We were in a call a couple of days ago, and you said something that was actually quite profound for you. Normally it's Kieran coming out with all the profound remarks. So
Kieran is the smart one.
Yeah, he's the articulate one.
He is the smart one.
But you said you think there's a big issue at the moment with artists not being able to separate the art from the artist, and that they feel like the art's people believe the art's a representation of them. Tell me what you think, because you said that and I was like, holy shit, that's deep and true. I just want you to just elaborate on it. Tell me what you think about that.
Yeah, I think I've been feeling it quite a lot over the past couple of months and years as I've started getting into environment art. And the more that you put yourself into this career mindset of, I want to be an environment artist, I want to do this, I think you start losing other parts that kind of defined you in the past as a person, and you start replacing that with this I'm an artist thing, and before you know it, once you start getting a bit of acclaim for what you do, you start looking at your art station, you start thinking, oh, that's me right there. Oh, those likes, those followers, that's me. And then when you start doing projects, you start, maybe the project's not going so well. You think, oh shit, that's me as well. This project not going well, the shit art that I'm making, that must mean I'm shit.
Yeah.
I especially felt this with my Light the Path project. Things went terribly on that project so quickly. It was overscoped. Arts looked terrible. I wasn't really getting any good results, and I was really hating on myself for not being able to make it better. And I didn't know why, and I was like, oh, there's something wrong with me. It's a me problem. And it wasn't really. It turned out that I wasn't a shit person. That was just shit art. And it wasn't that I was being terrible. It's just other things were going on. I was getting way too stuck into this piece at the time. There was not really a need to. And I was biting off more than I could chew, and it just, the way that it reflected on me was awful. I thought,
do you think
I needed to step away from the art and detach myself and realize that what I'm working on isn't me, it's my art. And my art can be shit, and I can be okay.
Do you think artists and people within the industry who deal with artists treat us like robots? I know I felt like this and I mean I was guilty of this, but this is me who's the villain in this story. There was people who I was like, oh, you're just not doing, you're not producing the art you were like a couple of months ago? What's going on? Like, and I was getting really frustrated. I was like, why are you not doing the thing I know you meant to do and I know you can do? Like, come on, just make the art like you did before. Like, I can't go into details of NDAs. I was like, come on, what are you doing? Like, I know you're better than this. And people are human. And it weren't until basically a couple of months later, my lead was like, yeah, so-and-so went through this. And I was like, oh, fuck. That's why things were going... Their head weren't in the right place to be producing art because there was a bunch of shit going on.
Yeah.
Now, that's easy. That's an easy like anecdote when I'm comparing it to... Because I knew that person. It's a human person I interact with. I think it's very easy to do the same with people on, say, like ArtStation, where we go, oh, that dude hasn't produced art in like a year and a half. Like, where's he gone? Is he retired? Is he just not making art? And it's like, yeah, these people still have lives and they're human, and you know what? They just need a break and they don't want to do stuff. Like, do you remember that like patch of Josh Lynch? He was churning out art.
Literally just about to say that.
Yeah, he was churning out. And I remember there was a point where I was just like, shit, Josh ain't posted in ages. What's Josh doing?
Is he gone? Did he fall off the earth or something?
Yeah,
like, what happened to that guy? He was like
exactly
up there with like Daniel Theiger, just slaying. And you know what? He still is. Like, the work that he did before is still there. Like, nothing's changed. Yeah. He's still an incredible artist, and I think the fact that he was able to take a year off just clearly reflects how comfortable he is with himself as an artist. Like, he just didn't feel like it for a year.
Yeah.
And then when he got the feeling of, yeah, I'd like to do some art again, he did it.
Yeah, I think we do treat, and I'm thinking it's coming back to what you're saying, where we, as an individual, we kind of like dissociate ourselves from our art. Like, we beat, like you said, you beat yourself up. It's like, why am I not making the art? I'm not making the art as good as I want to make it. It's like, we're not robots. We're not a conveyor belt which we just flick a switch and we start producing. Yet we treat ourselves like that. I don't know where, and you know what? I don't know where it comes from either. I actually have I've thought about this a long time. At no point has anyone ever instilled in me that I have to be consistently producing super quality art of like a consistent standard, like, and I'm not allowed a break or I'm not allowed lapse. Yeah, I feel like that.
Put it on yourself.
Yeah, and everyone, like you just said, you did it with this, and this is why I had this discussion with Josh when I was like, I feel like burnout is a rite of passage. I used to think like, burnout's like this terrible thing, avoid burnout, but now I'm like, no, you need to go through it so you know where that wall is to avoid.
Oh, like, yeah.
But it does baffle me, because I'm like, where does this like mentality come from of work yourself like a robot because you're a robot? Like, no one's ever taught us that, yet we act like it.
I don't know. I think there was a point at the beginning of the art career where every moment is just bliss, right? Like, every little bit of every asset you make just comes out better than the last. You get into like that stride.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you hit that stride of being able to just continuously make stuff, you get yourself into the pattern of doing it really frequently. I think it happens to a lot of people at uni as well. I know it sounded like it happened with Jay with the Slaughterhouse, where he just made everything and he kept going. And he was doing 14-hour days on that thing. And then he's been talking a lot recently about feeling bad for not getting back into personal work for so long. It's like, dude, it's all right. Like, you have proven yourself, and like, you're not a machine, you're a human, and humans have to deal with human things, and art can come later. I don't know how we program ourselves to think that way though, but I definitely feel similar when it came to doing a lot of my art.
That's why on like my first ArtStation course, the first chapter was like, God, you land your first job as a junior, please give yourself like a 6-month break. You don't need to work like a robot all the way. Oh man, I mean, I do it now. I mean, I'm taking well, I'm on a forced break from art at the moment because I can't do art with my PC. But one of the this one, I want to see what you think about this as an idea. Do you get basically? I feel so bad because someone said this to me, and I was talking to Randall yesterday about it. Someone said it to me, and I feel terrible because I don't know who said it, and it is something that clicked with me instantly.
Okay,
it was
very profound.
It was like, basically I was trying to explain that I'm at this weird place where, like, for the past, I'd say, 6, 7, 8, probably nearly 10 years, I've been like, AAA, I need to be in AAA, that's what I need to do, I want to be in AAA. And I went to ArtStation, I'm working for ArtStation, it's more of a sort of managerial role, and I suppose it's closer to a producer, I suppose. Even though I was still doing the Decagon stuff, but I was like, for the first time, I'm like okay with it. You know, before I chose to go to Live 5 before I was at ArtStation. I went to Live 5 instead of Machine Games because I was like, I want to develop my business skills and my client skills because that's something I know long term is going to serve me. It was like a conscious decision, but it didn't sit comfortably with me. I wasn't happy about it. It was like, this is just a better long term goal. And the whole time I was at Live 5, I'm like, I still want to work in AAA. I still want to work in AAA. And I was like, it was itching at me, like killing me. Whereas now, so I said to this person, I was like, whoever it is, like if this person likes hearing this, I'm like, please tell me who it was because I owe you a massive thank you. But I was like, yeah, for the first time, I'm like, I'm happy. I'm not thinking, I need to like get into this like AAA studio because like one, I'm doing Decagon, which is AAA anyway.
Yeah, but totally.
They said that you've been living your life by the goals of an 18-year-old you. And you finally set new goals at 26-year-old you. You're no longer living to the expectations of a 21-year-old you. And I stopped for a second. I was like, holy fuck, that's actually spot on. And it was such a... This is why I feel terrible, because she said it. I think it was a she. And I just sort of went, yeah, that pretty much sums up, that articulates exactly how I feel. I'm no longer living to the constraints and the goals of past me. I'm on present.
The weight off the shoulders. Like you feel like you don't need to feel incomplete anymore, I guess.
Yeah, it was just so odd because I was like, for a long time we were trying to articulate this feeling, and it's like, and she said it, and I went, oh man, that's it. That's exactly how I'm feeling right now.
What were your 18-year-old ambitions?
AAA. It was
just anywhere.
It was not good. This is what I thought as an 18-year-old. I was like, I'm not going to uni. I was arrogant as shit because basically I was doing freelance work while I was at college. So I was like, I don't need uni. I've already got a job. Which it was freelance work for like a non-existent company doing like AR viz. And yeah, Mickey Mouse stuff. It's terrible stuff. Yeah. But it put such an ego trip on me that I was like, 18-year-old me, I was flaming the industry, going, why am I not in industry, man? I can model grey models. Like
you were comparing yourself against your peers who were probably just doing nothing.
Well, I didn't. This is the thing. I had no reference point. I weren't in body count. I weren't on ArtStation. Wasn't around back then. I was in a void. I was just on my own. So I was just sort of like.
Well, you were the best in the class, you know.
Exactly. That was it. You. Yeah, that's it. And I was on this massive ego trip. And then I was sort of, as I moved I got into like I went to Inspired Studios, and like there's a couple of guys there who were like pretty good, so they started to introduce me to ZBrush, and they like opened up a small new world to me. And then while googling ZBrush, I came across like Dynasty, and then the rest is history. Like that's when I was like had a wake up call that like watching Jeremy work and still learn as a senior environment artist and massive with like over 10 years experience, and he's still learning. I was like, shit, dude, I am not the finished product, and I should drop my. And that's when that chip on my shoulder just disappeared. But yeah, back to like so. Do you think has that like changed for you at all? Do you think? Because like you said, you make these props because you just enjoy making props. You're not on that chase anymore, because you know what it's like when you're trying to get into your first industry job. You're trying to check the boxes in your portfolio. Show I can do this, show I can do this, show I can do this, so that someone hires me. Once you're in there, do you think you go through a similar type of thing? That's sort of right. I no longer need to try and crazily improve myself at a rate of knots. I just need to enjoy what I do. Is that why do you think you maybe been able to go back and just do these like nice detailed props, that you're not holding yourself accountable to crazy mass improvement at a ridiculous rate?
I mean, I'm still ambitious as hell. Like there is so much that I want in this career. There's so much I want to do. There are so many projects I want to work on. There's so much art that I want to make. There's so much that I want to do. So, I mean, I'm still pretty young. I haven't been in the industry that long, so I think a lot of that ambition is still burning really hot. Just because I've been changing to props, I don't really feel like it's like less so. I've just put like the energy that I was putting into scenes into something a bit smaller, which is a lot higher quality over quantity. And it's a lot more manageable with the time that I have. Yeah, totally.
Like it's around 100% energy on a prop, you'll go it. Sorry, so rather than instead of a 100% energy on a scene, and that means 2% for a prop, it's 100% energy on a prop.
Yeah, it's less dispersed. It's just putting the energy somewhere else. And like I don't know, I still have pretty big goals, and that's pushing me to do these props as well. Like, it's definitely a contributing factor of why I want to get better and keep doing sick art.
Okay, you've just segued this perfectly. So, as you know, I know you've listened to the past podcasts. I used to wrap up podcasts with, what would you say to past you? And I'm fed up of looking at the past.
There's no point.
Forward. This time next year, what are you hoping you have learned? Where are you hoping you are going to be as an artist? And I don't mean professionally, ignore the professional element. I mean, just to give you some context, for me, I want to really have upped my skills in storytelling and lighting. That's all I really want to focus on. So in a year, like, what skills are you, where are you looking to be as an artist? Like, what skills are you looking to develop? What are you hoping to have done?
That's a big question.
I know, I'm sorry. I am going to drop this on everybody.
That's existential. Oh my God. I mean, the worst thing is when you get asked, where do you expect to see yourself in 5 years? I don't know. A year? I don't know.
I mean, what are you working on now? Like, you're doing this scene. Let's like make it more tangible. You're working on this scene. This is a long-term goal. Like, what are you trying to get out of the scene? What's like? Obviously, it's just a nice piece of art. That's a given. Like,
a believable and interesting scene. Something that I think I don't expect this to happen in a year, but this year I'd like to be able to do it. Just something that people haven't seen before. Mm-hmm. A piece of art that gets people thinking differently. Something that, I don't know, shakes things up a little bit. I definitely think for me an ambition is to do something that you don't see all the time. And at some point, I will have to move away from doing things like fridges and TVs because they've definitely been seen before. Mm-hmm. But at the moment, I'm just getting my skills up so I can, in the future, make something that people haven't seen before.
So that's the goal, and a really original.
Yeah, originality.
I've never seen that before. Piece of art. That's a very interesting goal. That's a challenging goal, man.
It is, dude. But hey, like, if you can't be original, what are you? You know?
Do you not believe in that old cliche, the one where like there's no such thing as an original idea?
Oh, there's definitely original ideas out there. I wouldn't want to live for another 80 years if there wasn't original ideas still left. I think there's plenty out there we can do.
Man, I'm looking forward because I'll definitely be getting you on back on in the future. We'll have like a retrospective. We'll get it back on in a year and go, right, so JonJo, do you want to explain to me whether you have achieved your targets for this year? But
we'll see.
Dude, it's been an absolute pleasure talking. I love talking to you and the other guys.
You too, bro.
It always makes me happy because you guys have, for such young people, got a better
outlook. Your youthful opinions.
Well, you seem to have a more sense. Most of the younger people I talk to who are like in these sort of this age bracket tend to have a more reasonable, grounded, down-to-earth opinion as some of the more experienced folks, which is kind of depressing, but at the same time, it's really positive to see because that's obviously your future.
Kind of depressing. Thanks, man.
It's depressing when I'm seeing like I mean, how old are you, dude?
22.
So the fact I'm seeing a 22-year-old be more reasonable about certain things than I'm seeing on that, like, you're being more reasonable about complex topics than some very experienced artists are in the public sphere right now, and it's depressing to me that this experienced people are behaving like that. But it's also positive because you guys, obviously, the younger artists are the future, and if you guys are the future, then the future's bright without being too soppy and cliche. But JonJo, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me, and I really appreciate it.
Dude, thank you for having me, man. It's been a lot of fun. I really do look forward to doing more of these.
Thank you for listening, guys. Remember, catch the podcast on Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Remember to like, follow, share, help more people hear the great knowledge people such as JonJo are sharing. But see you guys next week. Peace out, guys.